There was a man named Ethan who had a dream. Not a crazy dream, not an impossible dream. He simply wanted to build something of his own. A small business, a YouTube channel, a career he could be proud of, a life where he didn't wake up every Monday wishing the weekend would come faster. But Ethan had one problem. He was always waiting. At 22, he told himself, "I'm too young. I need more experience." At 25, he said, "I'll start when I have more money." At 28, he thought, "I need to learn more first." At 30, he promised himself, "Next year will be the year." And then something happened that most people never notice. Years started disappearing. Ethan wasn't failing. He wasn't making terrible decisions. He was simply waiting for the perfect moment. And that might be one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make, because the perfect moment doesn't exist. Think about your own life for a second. How many times have you said, "I'll start when I'm ready, when I have more money, when I have more confidence, when I have more time, when life gets easier, when I know exactly what I'm doing"? Ethan said all of those things too, and every time he waited, his dream became a little quieter. At 32, he finally had enough money, but now he had responsibilities. At 35, he had more experience, but now he was afraid of making a mistake. At 37, he had watched hundreds of videos about success, read books, studied business, and planned everything. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He just hadn't started. One night, Ethan came home from work and found an old notebook in a drawer. It was the notebook he'd used 10 years earlier. On the first page, he had written, "I'm going to start my business this year." Ethan smiled. Then he turned the page. There was another plan, then another. Ideas, goals, strategies, dreams, 10 years of preparation, and almost nothing to show for it. That night, Ethan sat quietly and realized something painful. He hadn't been preparing for 10 years. He had been postponing for 10 years. And suddenly, he understood the real danger. Waiting doesn't feel like failure. That's why it's so dangerous. Failure hurts, but waiting feels safe. When you wait, you don't have to risk rejection. You don't have to risk embarrassment. You don't have to hear someone say, "Your idea isn't good enough." You don't have to discover that you're not as good as you hoped. Waiting protects your ego, but it also steals your future. The next morning, Ethan made a decision. He stopped asking, "When will I be ready?" Instead, he asked, "What can I do today?" He didn't quit his job. He didn't become successful overnight. He didn't suddenly become fearless. He simply took one small step. He created the first version of his idea. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't impressive, but it existed. And that was more powerful than 10 years of planning. The next day, he improved it. The day after that, he improved it again. Some days he made progress. Some days he failed. Some days he wanted to quit. But he kept moving. 6 months later, something interesting happened. The thing Ethan had been waiting for wasn't confidence. Confidence came after action. It wasn't knowledge. Knowledge came from doing. It wasn't the perfect opportunity. The opportunity was created because he finally started. And that's the lesson. You don't become ready and then take action. You take action, and that's how you become ready. The first version will probably be bad. The first video might get almost no views. The first business idea might fail. The first attempt might embarrass you. That's okay, because your first attempt isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to teach you. So if you've been waiting for the perfect moment, listen carefully. You might be waiting for something that will never come. There will always be another reason to delay, another bill, another fear, another excuse, another Monday. And one day, you may look back and realize that the right time you were waiting for was actually today. Ethan wasted 10 years waiting for the perfect moment. Don't make the same mistake. Start before you're ready. Start small. Start scared. Start imperfectly. But start, because 10 years from now, you will either be proud that you began or wishing you had. The choice starts with what you do today.